Hey, Dori, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation today and get the listeners to know a little bit more about you because I just told you I've been like binge listening to your podcast and just listening to all the things that you have done. I love podcasting because it's like a two-way street. So I get to know your listeners, but then also get to know you a little bit better. So I think it's such a great way to really dive into like who somebody is. So I just think it's so fun. So I was listening to a bunch of your episodes recently.
Awesome. I'm so happy you got a chance to listen.
Yeah. All right. So I want to introduce you to our listeners. So this is Dori Stewart, and she is a former teacher, which we have in common because I used to be a teacher as well. So we can always talk about that. But she was a teacher who saw a need and came up with a solution, which I always love. That idea became a business that she grew into a multi-million-dollar global brand. Now she is using that knowledge and experience she gained to help other women become successful business owners as a consultant. So, oh my gosh, I love all that. I would love if we start back at your journey as a teacher and what was this need that you saw that you thought, gosh, I could create a solution for that. I would love if you would start there.
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, I was a high school engineering teacher and I taught for 11 years. And throughout that time, I was also a teacher volunteer for an after school club called the Technology Student Association. And I would take my students to competitions around the country, competing against other schools in really cool engineering events. And throughout that time, I had my own children. And mine were very young. They were early elementary. And I'd go pick them up at the school, take them back to the high school with me, and they would run around my classroom and were always so excited by what my high school students were doing. And, I'd come home from work and they'd ask me progress on certain projects. And I had an opportunity one summer to take my students to a national competition in Orlando, Florida. And I decided that my kids would never forgive me if I went to Orlando and didn't bring them. So I decided to make a family trip out of it. I brought them with me. And I thought that I was going to get complaints and moaning and groaning the whole week that, when are we going to go to Disney? When are we going to go to Disney? And what instead happened is they would wake up excited about, what competition is today and are we going to go see it? And they were keeping tabs on how my high school students were doing. And that prompted me to start looking at the curriculum at the elementary school level. And I noticed that engineering was not taught. Now, this was back in 2008. Things have changed a lot since then, but engineering was only taught to the gifted and talented kids. And so that was the need that I found. And I was lucky enough to get a flyer home in my son's backpack one day. And the school's PTA was asking for parent volunteers to come and teach an after school program as a fundraiser if they had a hobby or a business. And I decided to take what I was doing with my high school students in civil engineering. I changed it up to make it more developmentally appropriate for the elementary age kids. And I taught a civil engineering class. And I thought, I'll give it a try. My own kids and some of their friends will be in the class, but
Right.
it filled up. The principal asked me what else I had to offer. The teachers were pulling me aside, picking my brain for ideas. And I had some parents ask me, are you going to offer summer camps? What else do you have to offer?
Wow.
And I kind of thought, okay, this could be a really cool side hustle. I can do it, in the afternoons and the summers, when my kids are out of school anyway. And what ended up happening is it turned into something that grew so big that it replaced my teacher income. I was able to take that next year to build a business, still teaching. And after a year, I quit my teaching job and started running the business full time.
Wow, that is so cool. I love that your kids were so excited about it and learning something new and seeing these older kids do it. And then that gave you that push too to be like, let me see about this. I love that because did you ever think that you would be an entrepreneur or did you always grow up knowing that you wanted to be a teacher?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think that I would do something other than teaching. I was kind of, and you may be able to relate to this. As a teacher, I kind of felt like what else is there? Like I wanted something more. And in education, there's not a whole lot of room for growth beyond the classroom unless you wanted to be an administrator. And I didn't want to have to deal with problems all day.
Right.
So I was kind of, I was at the time thinking about getting my PhD in education, or, just trying to think of ways to grow in my career. And, there just wasn't a whole lot of opportunity there. And so when I started operating the business, I mean, it was like a fire in me, and I loved every minute of it. And I started getting neighboring counties asking if I would bring the program to their county. And a couple of years into it, I had people start emailing me. They would fall upon my website and asking, can you bring this to Chicago, or do you sell your curriculum? And so I really started looking at ways to grow my business. And I ultimately chose franchising as the way to grow and scale my business, because you have that owner operator that knows their own community best.
Right.
And through that, I was able to reach over a million kids, and I was able to get into 35 different countries. And it just kind of, grew organically.
Right. Now, I'm sure so many listeners or moms that are out there that are listening, or maybe if they are staying at home, or maybe they're in a job that, isn't necessarily their passion right now. You start this business and you're super successful, but during that time, were there times when it didn't feel like that, or that you had that learning curve of, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm not a businesswoman. Like, I went to school to be a teacher. I didn't take business classes. Like, how did you get to create this multi-million-dollar business with like a teacher's degree? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask, because so many times I think in our head, or me as a teacher, I always felt like, oh, I have to get another certificate. I have to get another degree. I have to do
Mhm.
this. So how did you get there to be able to create this amazing business?
I think that I just kept looking one step ahead.
Okay.
What is the next step in growth? And so it first was, okay, I'm growing to additional locations. So then I was no longer just in my small town of Stafford, Virginia. Now I'm expanding into Northern Virginia and Fredericksburg, Virginia. So I started, growing that way. But then when I started getting people asking about me bringing the program to other cities, you get all those limiting beliefs, and you start to think, okay, I'm just a teacher. I don't have a business degree. And, the world is a lot different in terms of business resources available now than there were 10 years ago. And so it was really hard. I also started my business. This was 2008, 2009. We were in a terrible recession. And so everybody told me I was crazy.
Yeah.
And I even had a consultant tell me that my business wouldn't work. And so I think I just kept thinking, okay, what is the next step to grow? If I had thought about, what it would look like 10 years later, I would have been overwhelmed, and I probably wouldn't have continued.
Yeah. That's so interesting, because just the people telling you not to do it, and then a consultant even telling you your business was a horrible idea or it wasn't going to work. And then you continue to push anyway. Like, was that something like in your heart, in your soul, or in your mind that was just like, but what if? Like, what if it does? Is that what
Totally.
made you like be like, I don't care what anyone else says. Like, I feel this in my gut and I really need to do it because I'm living in this. Like, my kids, other people are asking me for it. Like, there has to be something here.
Yeah, I think that there are a couple of things that had happened. One is when I first started the program, and I saw how excited the kids were, because I had been teaching high school and my own kids loved what I was doing, but I didn't know that
Yeah.
other kids would like it. And so when the kids were having a good time and they were asking their parents if they could come back, that was one. And then second, the parents were bragging to their friends that their child is in an engineering program. And
Wow.
the parents felt like, okay, we're in the middle of a recession, but I'm spending my money wisely because this is for my kids' future. And so the parents were willing to spend the money to sign their kids up for another session. And the kids wanted to come back. And I felt like there was magic there. And I
Yeah.
guess I just felt that every kid needs engineering. They don't need to just wait until high school. And the other thing that was happening is while I was teaching high school, not a lot of girls are attracted to engineering programs. And, my classroom was on the scary hallway,
Yeah.
with automotive and some of those other types of classes that a lot of the girls just didn't go down that hallway. And so it was through me doing the after school program, word got out that it was a lot of fun and we got to travel. So I attracted a lot of kids in my program that otherwise wouldn't have taken an engineering class. And I had girls come to me and say, I wish I had known about this sooner. I feel like I missed the boat on getting into a good competitive engineering college. And so all of those things were kind of happening at the same time. And I just felt like the consultants I was talking to and, people in franchising that they didn't understand. They didn't get it
Yeah.
that 4-year-olds need to learn engineering.
Right.
Like they just didn't understand what I was doing. And I felt so strong in my convictions that every kid needs this, that just really pushed me through those fears.
Yeah. And as a mom, I would love if you kind of talk to being that business owner as a mom, or even, you know, leaving your teaching career to do this company. Now, you said you had replaced your income at that time. So at least you had replaced your income. But I know when I left teaching, people thought I was crazy because, oh my God, you're getting that steady paycheck. You're getting your health insurance. Oh my gosh, you're leaving your pension, all that security, the what. And I always thought of it as the what if, like, yeah, but that's the what if in like 30 years. Like, what about the now? Like, how did you kind of handle that as a mom, that transition from being that teacher to then being that business owner? Like, did your kids transition easily because they thought this was so cool that my mom is doing this, and were you home more? Or like, how was that transition? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, there was a lot going on at that time. My kids were excited because they got to walk around the school in their t-shirts with the logo on it. And, my mom's the owner of that business because now their friends were liking. And so
Yeah.
that helped a lot, is that their friends and the kids in the school knew about the program and they were in the program and everybody thought it was cool. So there was that cool factor,
Yeah.
but I also involved them as much as possible. And they still today remember putting signs in yards and stuffing envelopes. And I mean, this was before social media. I don't think
Yeah.
Instagram was around yet. So, it
No.
was old school marketing, and we had an assembly line at the dining room table. And, every time I had a new training session with franchisees. Now, my son growing up was a geography nerd and just loves maps. And so he would get so excited. I remember having a training session and there was a group from Azerbaijan that came, and he was just so excited because he knew exactly where that was. He knew where it was on the map before I did.
Right. I'd
And
have to
so,
like Google that.
right. So they just, so they grew up in it. And the other thing that was happening is I was in a not so great marriage at the time. And I knew that I needed this business to work to help me get out of a bad relationship and be able to take care of my kids and build a better life than what teaching would be able to afford me to do. And so that was another big push for me to kind of ignore all the people telling me I was crazy and
Right.
ignore my fears and just really push through and make it happen. Like I was in a moment of it has to work. It's going to work.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. And so do you still have that company? Are you still doing things with that company? And then you've done something now with franchising. Is it the same kind of, like, what are you doing now?
So I got an offer in 2019 from a private equity group that was a good offer. I always knew that I would ultimately sell. Franchising is very popular for private equity. Investment groups can make a lot of money by purchasing franchise companies. And so the majority of franchise companies out there are owned by private equity. I was one of the few that wasn't. And so I would get offers all the time. And in 2019, I got an offer that was different than what I had previously been offered. And it was from an ed tech firm that didn't want to flip it. They wanted to keep it. They have 4 other education brands under their belt. They were looking for a STEM education company to add to their portfolio, and they wanted to keep it. And so it was a good deal. There was a lot of synergy there. And at the end of 2019, I was on the fence. Do I do it? Is it the right time? My kids grew up in this business. It's my baby. And so I was all in my feels, not knowing what to do. And then COVID hit. And one of their companies was already completely virtual. They had the staff and the resources available to quickly pivot everything that, we were offering everything hands-on at the time, and to put that all virtual. So it made sense at the time. And I stayed on for 6 months to help transition the franchisees over to the new ownership. So now I'm a franchise consultant.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Oh, now how was that? Like when you sold it, you already said like, oh my God, it's like your baby, but like, how has that transition been? Like once your 6 months was kind of done, like, are you just like, okay, I'm good because now I'm doing something else? Is now your entrepreneur mind is always working? And it sounds like your kids are they out of the house now? Or are they out, or are they back? Or are they, where are your kids in this?
Yeah. Okay. So now my daughter actually is graduating from college in 2 weeks. So that's amazing.
Congratulations.
I know. And then my son is transferring. He has been, because of COVID, he decided to stay home and go to community college, and he's transferring to a 4-year school. So I'm going to be an empty nester soon.
Oh my gosh.
I know. But yeah, so to answer your question about what it was like after the 6 months, it was weird. It was really weird. I kind of went through, I guess, a little bit of a mourning period, like moving on. It's kind of like, your children grow up and you're watching it, them grow, and you have to let go. It kind of felt like that. Like I had to let go of the business.
Yeah.
And so that was really hard. And yeah, my entrepreneurial brain was going crazy. Like, do I want to start a subscription box? Do I want to, go back into STEM? Do I want to go back and create another education company? What do I want to do? But the last 10 years, I immersed myself in franchising. I didn't have a business degree. I had a lot to learn. I got my certified franchise executive credentials. I'd been going, to so many conferences, and I was written about in several major publications. And in all those publications, they were praising me for franchising. And so I kind of took a step back and looked at, an outsider looking in, and what does my bio look like? Well, my bio, all my, really big accolades are in franchising. And it just felt like more authentic than going back into education. So.
Right. And so when you're franchising, I guess my question is like, how does that work? Like, cause you took your bit. I have a friend that is on the podcast, and she's actually looking at franchising like her herbal store. And so like, how does somebody, like when you coach people or when you consult with people, like, do you talk with like the person and their family and kind of look at everything and you figure out like the big picture? Or do you find out like, what are you passionate about, and then find a good franchise that would work for them? I guess I just didn't realize, other than like, I guess a lot of like the fast food chains, that there's a lot of franchising out there. I guess other than food, I was like, that's all there is franchising food.
Yeah, and that's what most people think when I talk about franchising. Most people think of McDonald's. They think of like big, expensive build outs and really big investments, but there's thousands of franchise companies, and there's over 75 different categories. So yeah, I do both of what you described. So on one side, there's the small business owner, like your friend, who is looking at franchising their business. And so I work with them one-on-one, and I help them go through a feasibility study. Like, first, is this the right growth model for your business? And if it is, what do we need to do to get your business ready to offer it as a franchise? And so it's heavily regulated by the FTC, and there's a lot of decisions to make. And so I help people through that process to get it ready to then offer to be able to sell it as a franchise. And on the other side, I help people who are looking at becoming a business owner, and maybe they don't have the big idea and they want to buy something that's tried and true. And so maybe they want to buy a tutoring franchise. They don't want to come up with everything on their own and make all the mistakes. Someone else has done that for them. And so then I place people with the right franchise business match for them.
Oh, that's so cool. How interesting. Like I had no idea.
It's fun. I'm kind of like a matchmaker.
Yes, absolutely. Are there like franchise? Well, I'm sure that there are like conferences and things like that. I'm sure there's like big ones out there.
Yeah, there's so many conferences. There's conferences where people can go and, kind of visit all the different booths if they're looking to buy a franchise. And then there are conferences for franchisors, for people who were like me and are franchising their business and growing their business through franchising, so they can learn more about it and make sure they're, stay on top of new legal, issues and
Yeah.
compliance things like that.
Yeah. When you were going through, because I know, being a teacher myself, when you're growing and learning and things like that, it's always content that you're learning. That's how I always felt. Like if you're going to get a certification, it's content that you're learning, and then you're a master of that content. But as a
Mhm.
business owner, there has to be a lot of personal development of yourself and your mindset. When you were going through the phase from the teacher, I know I'm going back, but like from the teacher to like the entrepreneur, did you have to do a lot of that personal development and personal growth and that mindset piece to be able to manage this business? And you said go step to step to step, but like you yourself as a businesswoman, how did you do that yourself? Did you go to conferences? Did you listen to things? Did you just take action and you just grew every day? Did you read books? What were you doing to kind of grow yourself as a person and a business owner?
I did all of those things. I
Well,
really did. I bought every book I could find on franchising. I talked to anyone that would give me a minute of their time. I talked to consultants, I talked to existing franchise owners, I talked to attorneys, I talked to basically anyone that would give me a few minutes and talk to me. And then going to conferences, there's a lot of professional development in all these conferences that you can go and take different courses from different experts. And so I did a lot of that. And then I did the formal training through the International Franchise Association to get my certified franchise executive credentials. So I did all of it. Now this is going to date me because I didn't listen to podcasts, but instead I listened to, audio CDs, audio books in my car as I was, traveling back and forth, taking the kids to school and things like that. Simon Sinek was big for me. Start with why, all of that. Was really big, but it was every phase of business was something very new to learn. So when I first started franchising my business, it was like, what do I need to learn right now in order to present this as a franchise? I have to have a discovery day. People are coming into town. I've got to entertain these people and present my company. And then, okay, now I have a couple of franchisees. Now I've got to figure out, okay, training, ongoing support, and things change quite a bit as your business grows. And there's definitely growing pains there. And there were some big ups and downs, but being able to impact as many as I did is one of the biggest reasons why I'm so passionate about franchising as a way to scale your business, because you can employ so many people and change so many people's lives. Is just such a great business growth model.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. When you sold your business, did you ever think, oh, now I can retire?
So
When you sold your
I'm,
business,
I
come on,
know.
be real.
Well, I'm 48. I'm too young to retire. So, but yeah, I mean, I did go through a little bit of a period of kind of like, I don't know what to do with myself. What do I
Yeah.
do? And I just have never been someone who can sit still very long. And so let's start a podcast. That'd be great. I'll learn a new skill. And I did,
Yes, I know.
and
I love it. No, I just was wondering because you dedicate all that time. So you said 10 years to this baby, this business. It's like your third child probably. And you're doing all these things and you're up leveling and you're in your business every day. And I think that's what so many people, my husband and I also own a restaurant, and having a business, I think people think, oh my gosh, that you have the life, depending on obviously your business, but you have the life and you're making all this money and you don't have to work if you don't want to. And when you have a small business and we have a brick and mortar, like you're always there, you're always working, you're always on. I feel like, and so I just think, when you sold the business, it would be like, oh my gosh, like this weight, even though you're mourning, it's like also this weight has been lifted off your shoulders of like, now I can do anything. Like I could go travel if I wanted to for a couple of weeks. I don't, my phone's not always going to be ringing, or I'm not always going to be having those emails, coming to me. And so I can see kind of where it would be both feelings of like, yes, sadness, but then also like excitement and joy of like, well, now I have that freedom to do whatever I want.
yeah, totally. I had 165 franchisees.
Wow.
And so I basically had 165 teenagers who, some wheels were very squeaky and some weren't. But, you know, you're absolutely right. When you go on vacation, you're never on vacation. You're
Yeah.
never completely on vacation. You still have to get up a few hours before the family and make sure there aren't any fires to put out before you start your fun. you
Yeah.
know, you're never done.
Yeah. I know. So I just was wondering, did you ever think like, hey, now I'm going to go to like vacation out west for like a month and just not do anything and put my feet up?
If it weren't for COVID,
COVID.
I might have thought a lot differently about the answer to that question. But, I mean, everything was so shut down and up in the air. And my kids were going through a lot because they were both dealing with, the changes in school and things like that. So it was good for me to have the time, for my family.
Yeah. And so are either one of them, especially seeing them growing up and you having this business and STEM being such a big, part of it, are either one of them doing things, in engineering or any of those roles? I'm curious.
So they're both STEM majors.
Oh, goodness. Awesome.
Different though. My daughter she's a biology nerd, and so she's a horticulture major. And
Okay.
so her plants are her babies.
Love it.
And my son is going into graphic design and animation with a minor in computer science. He wants to work for the gaming industry. So
Okay. Yeah,
it'll be a lot of fun to see what they end up doing.
that makes sense. Yeah. Gaming. Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that though. And they probably got a lot of that from you and seeing, you putting that into them, at such a young age, and like you can do anything. And then watching you create this career and this business, and helping all these, thousands, millions of kids around the world. I mean, that's pretty amazing from their eyes. I don't know if they realize it or not, but I'm sure that they do, even if they don't actually voice it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's cool to see them. Their perspective is definitely different than maybe other kids whose parents didn't go through everything that I did. And since they were so aware of everything that was going on, I think it did make a big impact.
Yeah, and they were part of it too. Like they were stuffing envelopes and helping you put out signs. So you made it a whole
Yeah, they
family.
became teachers as they grew up.
Did they really?
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And like some of the summer camps or just any of your programs?
Yep, summer camps, and my son even helped develop some curriculum at some point. Yeah,
Oh my
they made
gosh.
great guinea pigs.
Cool. Yeah, and that's all your teacher skills, that you learned, when you did go to college, and how to create courses and, your curriculum and your lesson plans, and You
Mhm.
used that as your background, and then you just morphed it into something that you can control and you can shape, and there were no boundaries. There wasn't like this box that you had to stay in with these standards. It was like you could do whatever you wanted.
Yeah, and I basically kept teaching in a way. So the 10 years of me being a franchisor, I was basically a business coach to all of these franchisees because instead of teaching in the classroom, I was teaching other business owners how to run the business that I created in their own hometown. So I was still kind of teaching.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, and it's always a teacher at heart, right? And your ultimate
Exactly.
is to help people, and so
Mhm.
that's incredible. And I love that you're doing that still with your franchisee, consulting too. That is just fabulous. Because again, you're just taking that and helping more and more people to do this. And I love the aspect of, you're also creating jobs for people. I think that's so beautiful too.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been wild.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Is there anything that you haven't shared that you feel like is on your heart to kind of share with the moms that are out there? Any words of encouragement or anything like that?
Yes, I would say believe in yourself. And if you have an idea, if someone tells you that your idea is crazy, if you feel it, if you know in your heart the world needs this, believe in yourself and ignore all the naysayers and just get out there and do it. Just try it. And it's okay if it doesn't work out, but just try it because you never know what's possible.
Right. Yeah, you never know. And there's going to be, failure along the way. And that's just feedback, of how it can get better. I'm sure that happened with you. There were things you're like, oh, that course didn't work or that curriculum wasn't the best. Maybe we'd have to tweak it, this way. So
Mhm.
there's always that feedback along the way.
Totally.
Oh,
Hmm.
that. All right. My last question for you, Dori, is as women, we tend to not celebrate ourselves enough. And so I would love to know, what do you love about yourself right now, Dori?
Ah, that
Mm.
is a great question. Um, I love that at my age, which I hate bringing that in there, that, I've been able to learn a completely new skill and completely pivot in my professional life and still find the same level of fulfillment. So I would say that I'm pretty proud of myself for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say like age is just a number. And for 48, because you did say it earlier, that's the only reason I know it. You look fabulous, darling.
Aw, thank you. I love you.
Absolutely. How can people find you? Because I know that there's going to be, moms listening, women listening, whoever's listening that are going to want to find more information out about you, your podcast. I know your podcast is amazing. I was just saying, I was listening to so many great episodes. There's so much great information there, but just how can they find you if they want to talk to you about franchising?
So the best way is through my website, which is doristewart.com. And then I am all over social media for my podcast, She Turned Entrepreneur.
Oh, thank you so much. This has been such a gift to talk with you today, and I love hearing your success story and hearing just to go for it and what you accomplished and what you did, and your kids were with you every step of the way. That makes a mama's heart just proud.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dori. See ya.
Bye.